G'day, I'm Paul. I'm so excited today because not only is today about the BMW M4 Competition, but today is all about the BMW M4 Competition with a stack of ridiculous M performance parts, including like a giant wing, a ridiculous exhaust. So we're gonna have a lot of fun with that today. Normally I hate it when it's wet out here, but rear-wheel drive sports car, wet. Excellent. Now this competes with things like the Mercedes-Benz C63S, which is going to a 4-cylinder, which probably won't be anywhere near as much fun as this, or the V8, and also the Audi RS5 as well. This is priced at just under $170,000 before you add on all the bits and pieces. But if that's too expensive, you can actually get the entry-level M4 in a manual, which you can't do in the RS5 or the C63, and that's priced at just under $160,000, which is slightly more palatable. Today we're going to do a detailed review of this car, so if you do want to skip ahead to other parts of this review, you can use the time codes on the screen, or if you're on YouTube, you can scroll down and use the chapters below. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon so you can find out whenever we drive a beast like this. But let's go for a spin. There's a lot to get through here, so we're going to split this up into a couple of sections. We're going to do this on-road section, and then I'm going to play with some of those controls as well to see how well they work. So powering this is a 3-litre twin turbocharged inline 6-cylinder petrol engine. So it's a fairly meaty thing. It produces 375 kilowatts of power and 650 Newton meters of torque. And unlike the previous generation of this, it's now mated to a torque converter, so no dual clutch setup here, which, look, ultimately I think is way better. The dual clutch setup wasn't that bad last time, but this time around it is so smooth. So even when you take off from a standing start, everything happens nice and smoothly. And this is such a eager engine, so you need a gearbox that's going to play ball and be predictable, and that's pretty much exactly what this is. Now, if you're wondering, compared to the standard M4, this has about 20 kilowatts of power and 100 Newton meters of torque difference. So that is the main sort of power and torque separation between the two, and that's where you're spending the bulk of your money. Now, before we pick up the pace, let's talk about fuel economy. So BMW claims a figure of just over 10 litres per 100 Ks. We are currently sitting on, I scroll through our menu here, 17.7. So I will sort of caveat that by saying that we did filming for this next section you're about to see this morning because it was nice and wet, and we thought, well, we don't want to destroy the tyres. It's wet, so let's do all the fun stuff early. So yeah, look, don't buy this if you expect it to be miserly on fuel, but this is a better performer than the C63, given that it's a twin turbo V8. This is going to use a little less fuel. Now, ahead of the driver here, you've got a whole bunch of displays there. You can rotate through this display here to see things like your G-bubble. You've got all of the drive modes that the car's currently in, and then you've also got your fuel economy trip computer and tyre pressures as well, which come in handy to give you an idea of how your tyres are coping with the battering you're giving them. Down the bottom here, you've got the gear that the car's in, the drive mode, and then also on the gear stick here, you can actually move between the drive shift modes there, so basically how quickly that's going to shift between the gears, so you have ready access to that if you need to. But ultimately all of the fun is up here, and I'll give you a detailed run of how that works shortly. But these shortcut buttons are such a good idea. They're really easy to access, and likewise the paddles, the carbon on those paddles makes it so much fun to drive with. What about your road noise? Bad news, this isn't going to be the car you want if you want to do touring around countrysides and all that sort of stuff, because there is a fair bit of tyre noise that's coming into the cabin, and you do notice it more on coarse chip surfaces when you're hitting highway speeds. At the end of the day, you've got a killer sound system here that'll drown out most of that, and it is a sports car, so I would expect it to be fairly noisy once the speed picks up. Let's talk about the exhaust. So you do have an exhaust button here. Just in the normal driving mode, hitting that makes it a little bit more raucous, and it gives it a bit more note out the rear, but it's not until you actually switch into your sport driving modes that it really starts to make noise. So I've got M1 configured for loud everything, soft suspension and soft steering. So let's go for a fang around our track here. Let's see what this feels like. Oh, I love that noise. Far out. Holy crap, this is unreal. I am so lost for words. The way this is picking up speed is just ridiculous. It's still damp on parts of our track here, so I've got to be super careful, especially on these sections here where there isn't a great deal of traction anyway. Far out. The noise is unreal. When it's flicking up through those gears, you can hear this mighty burble as it catches the next gear. Brake pedal feel is excellent. You can actually change how that feels through the drive mode settings too. The comfort suspension mode's great, so it is still firm, but it's not completely back shattering like it is in Sport Plus. Roll onto the throttle. Wow. That is seriously ridiculous. I'm so lost for words. That is unreal. So you can go down the path of a Cup 2 if you want, but ultimately this tyre, the Pilot Sport 4S, has so much traction. Obviously I'm not sort of a super advanced driver, so I'm not driving this at its limits, but for the average punter, it has a lot of road holding, and even with stability control in a limited setting there, it still just has a lot of composure. It really doesn't want to spit you out at any point, especially when you've got wet and soft surfaces on the edge of the road here. This is just an absolutely unreal driving experience. Okay, it is time for 0 to 100. I'm excited to give this a crack. So it's actually an interesting system. So you've got to faff around with this a little bit to get it there, but what it will do is actually launch in second gear, because that's where it has the most traction. And instead of launching straight away, it actually builds up boost and then you slingshot out of there, which is absolutely unreal, because normally it's harder with a torque converter to get it out of the box nice and clean without it sort of just arcing up, and you don't have that freedom like a dual clutch where it can just drop the clutch. So to activate it, you disable stability control by pushing and holding that. Comes up saying DSC off. You then go to manual mode. You want that shift to be at maximum. Then all you do is just hold the brake and the throttle. You'll see this change to second gear. Then you'll also see preparing launch control here as we let go. So give this a shot. Here we go. Me, that is ridiculous. Holy crap, look at that. We got 3.8 seconds, which is better than the manufacturer claim. That is unreal for a rear-wheel drive car. I just love the way that it builds up boost and then unleashes like that. That is so cool. If you want as well, just like the old M3 and M4, you have like a burnout mode too, where it doesn't use launch control and will just let you fry the tyres if you need to as well. So yeah, that is seriously cool. Now time for the test you've all been waiting for. How fast will it go in reverse? Yeah, so we'll come to a stop. Got it in reverse there. We'll see what happens. Oh, that's nice and gradual. Everything just happens so nice and smoothly there. So 40 k's an hour in reverse and just nice and gentle as well. Okay, so this is a new test that we're doing. We're testing the lane support systems. This one actually has radar cruise control with a self-steering function. So I've enabled that now at 70 k's an hour. It's currently working in our first lane. We're going to use lane 1, 2, and 3 on the outer side there. So it works fine there. I have to intervene every now and then to stop it from complaining, but let's move over to the next lane. I'm keen to see if this actually stays in position. Okay, waiting for that to recognise. Okay, so green steering wheel is on. So that's steering on its own. That's actually pretty impressive. It is holding the lane there without any dramas at all. Let's jump up to lane 3. This is the one that causes pretty much every car misery. Let's see what it thinks about this. So we'll just wait for it to recognise the lines and lock the steering in. Okay, it's still waiting. There we go. Steering is locked in. I'm going to gradually let go of the wheel. Wow, that is so cool. So that is holding there in the outermost lane. That is awesome. The only other car that has worked here has been the new Ford Ranger, which has obviously a new system that really just is brand new, whereas this one is slightly more dated. So love that. So lane 1, 2, and 3 tick for the BMW M4 Comp. If you want to see how this one compares to other cars that we've tested before, have a look at the link in the description below. Now I'm going to give you a bit more of a listen to the exhaust. It sounds absolutely awesome from inside here, but this is what it's like on the outside. I'll just run through a couple of these gears. Now, what about our side waves? The ride in and around the city is firm, even in comfort, but what's it like on a country road at 130 when you hit some of these sine waves? Let's dial this up. I suspect it's going to stay dead flat, but can't be surprised. It's like you're not even going over a bump. It is very flat, and that tends to happen with cars like this that have super rigid and firm chassis and suspension, so it is a really nice, well-planted setup. Let's talk visibility. So you do sit pretty low to the ground, but you do have good visibility down the front of the car there. The wing mirrors are small, but the mirror size itself is pretty good. So I can see down the side of the car, there's a blind spot monitor built into there. Visibility out the back is okay, nothing amazing, and part of your vision is inhibited by that enormous wing on the back. Now, as I promised, I want to run you through some of the cool stuff you can do here if you find yourself at a big open area with no trees immediately next to you. So you can configure these buttons here. And what I've done is, currently it's in comfort mode, but if I press M2 twice, it'll put it into my M2 settings. And in the M2 settings, I have everything set to the extreme except steering, brakes, and then what I've done is left traction control in the loose setting. And the loose setting basically allows us to have some level of slip. So if you do get on the throttle, it will allow you to arc up the rear wheels a little bit. You can see the little flash there. And then in reference to a turn, what you can do is turn in, apply throttle, and then just gives you a little bit of manageable slip on the way out. So it's always in charge of everything, and you're not going to find yourself looped or in any real great danger. But then it gets interesting, because what you can do is switch this to DSC off, so that switches stability control off, but then it allows you to have a variable level of traction control all the way from 0 to 10. So the way that works is, right now it's in 10. As I go hard on the throttle, it's very much biting and limiting everything that I do. If I drop that down to something like 7, and then we attack our turn here, I can be a bit more confident with the throttle, and it still allows me to be safe. Drop that down to 5. We'll see what that feels like. I can already feel the rear wheel slipping a bit there as I gradually apply throttle. We'll give it a stab through our corner. So there you go. I can actually sort of hang it out a little sideways there, but I still have control over it. And I can just keep my foot in it. The car will just constantly bite at that, and it feels very natural and progressive. Let's drop that down to 3. I suspect this will get progressively more interesting as we go. So second gear, give it some throttle. There you go. So it does get you sort of sideways, but it still very much feels in control, and I really don't think that I could... Yeah, I don't feel like I can loop it at all unless I'm doing something really silly. So let's try, go down to 1, the least aggressive setting. See what this does. Oh, that's better. So in number 1, it's basically the least biting that you get on there, and it's giving you pretty much the most amount of fun, I reckon. Okay, let's go down to 0, which is off entirely. See how that goes. Oh, it's very bitey. It really just sort of lets go all of a sudden. You've got to be on top of it. Oh, that is so cool. So it is basically completely off there, so you are in charge of it. Next thing I want to show you is the Drift Analyzer. So it's still nice and wet out here, so I'm going to leave this in second. This is with stability control off. We'll just see what this feels like just in its normal setting. Okay, there we go. It's really nice and manageable.
even without any of those nannies on. Okay, now what you can do though, if you want to measure how much of a hero you are, you can leave traction control on. So if we go to like the second setting there and then open up the Drift Analyzer, what this does is it rates your drift. So if I activate that now, it tells you its stability control is off, all that sort of fun stuff. It's going to rate everything from the drift duration through to the length and also the angle. So I've got this with some form of traction control on at the moment. That's cool, so I can feel the traction control biting at the back there, but it still feels fairly loose when I go through that. All right, let's have a look at that. I am a 5-star drift god, well, 4.5 star. The best here was drift duration of 15.6 seconds, 186 meters, and the best angle, 30.2 degrees. So I'm quite impressed with that. Look, in summation here, I just love that you have so much configurability here with this car. Like, you can literally take control of everything. And if you do have a facility like this to yourself, you can put your Drift Analyzer on and actually have some fun with it. The variable traction control is awesome as well because, again, it gives you that safety net. So you can feel like you're doing stuff, but you always know in the background that there is some form of traction control. But do not get that confused with stability control, because even when you have 2 levels of traction control on, stability control is still off, which means if you are driving along and you want to be a bit of a hero and then you lose it, the car will completely lose control because it doesn't have stability control active. So it is a great feature, but just make sure you're still in charge of the car. It isn't going to stop you spinning. All it's going to stop is the wheels from turning. So yeah, love all these features. And look, the next generation of C63 is going to 4-cylinder. I don't care how good they make it. This, I think, is still going to be the king of performance cars. It is, yeah, it is sensational, and this level of configurability is right up my alley. Now, let's talk about the exterior. So you've got 16 colours to pick from, and the good news is most of them are free. You will pay extra for some matte colours and other fancy colours, but for the most part, you can pick the colour that you want and know that you're not going to have to pay through the nose for it. Now, speaking of noses, it's a bit hard to look beyond this. I think it actually doesn't look too bad with a bigger registration plate. So here with the slimline plate, it's still quite sort of big and gaudy and stuff, but you know, a bigger registration plate there kind of hides that nicely. But let's pretend, you know, everyone's sort of happy with that. I think the rest of this looks sensational. So let's start off down the bottom here. So some of the M Performance parts you're going to find on the front of the car here. So this lower section being in carbon. You've also got these canards on the side here as well with a little flick on them. They are in carbon as well. It is such a cool looking design and it works really well with this color as well. You get the M4 Competition badge just here. You do have just a regular M4 and then the M4 Competition. The M4 Comp has more power and it's a bit more aggressive in the way that it delivers that power too. The headlight cluster, this has BMW's laser headlights, so they give you really good projection at night time and they look really cool there with that blue element built into them as well. I like this big open grille too. Look at all that, so much cooling in there, and a radar sensor down the bottom. 360 camera, there's your front camera there. Now let's whip around to the side here and have a look at these wheels, tyres and brakes. So let's start off with the wheels. You have 19-inch alloy wheels at the front and then 20s at the rear, so it is a staggered setup. Up the front here, you've got a slightly narrower tyre as well. So this one comes in at 275 wide. Big old set of brakes here. So you can option carbon ceramic if you stick here with the steel brake. Comes with a 6-piston caliper and a 380mm rotor with cross drilling as well. Love that blue design. It really looks nice. Love this wheel design as well. That black, the piano black, is sensational. Looks like it'd be a bit of a pain in the ass to clean, but give that to someone else to take care of. The tyres, you've got Pilot Sport 4S, so it's not a massively aggressive tyre. So that means this should be a good balance for wet weather driving and also sort of racetrack driving as well. It'll give you just that little bit more grip. You can go to a cup tyre if you do want just a little bit more traction when you are driving on dry surfaces. Up here, you've got M4 Competition badge, and I think this center portion of the vent is real. Correct me if I'm wrong down in the comment section, but I think that little bit there is real. More carbon down the side here with another bit of that M Performance package. Have a look at this edge of it as well. Before I look at the mirror there, it sort of just carves up here, and it's like a little collector for stones and stuff. It is such an aggressive looking setup. I just love that. So wing mirror, it has the typical M setup here with that detached section. Black up the top there. You've got an indicator built into there with a little camera on the side there as well. So the body colour is broken up with these piano black sections that lead up to the carbon roof. So weight saving there, and lowers the centre of gravity as well, which means it is going to improve the handling. Shark fin aerial there as well, but I do love the way that carbon section looks. Around the back here, you have a smaller set of brakes, so 370mm rotor, single piston caliper, but this is where the tyres and the wheels increase, so 285 at the rear, and also a 20-inch alloy wheel there too. More of that carbon stuff around the back here, and that leads you to this completely remodeled diffuser, and where you're gonna find the $15,000 exhaust. So this is a mix of titanium and steel as well, and it just looks absolutely outrageous. I love that. The good news is if you do have an M3 or an M4, you can actually fit this in Australia, so the dealer will take care of all of that. So you don't have to get this from the factory, and then it means they basically replace this rear diffuser, stick your quad cannon exhausts into there so you can wake everyone up when you go for a drive. I think it's a really cool looking setup. Up the top here, you have M4 Competition badge. You also have LED taillights that wrap around the side here. Love that design. It's got a very sort of unique 3D element to it, so very cool setup. Another bit of the M Performance package with the carbon wing. Very outrageous looking too. You can actually get a smaller version of this that just sits on the boot lip here as well. But I think if you want everyone to know that you've got an M car, you can just go ahead and get that as well. So let me know in the comments section below, what do you think of this with the M Performance parts on it? Are you going to go down the path of that, or are you going to keep your M3 or M4 looking fairly standard? Let me know in the comments section below. So we're inside the M4 Comp. Let's start off with the key. You've got unlock, lock, boot, the diamond, M logo on the side there, blank on the back. Nice little bit of sort of chromey aluminium stuff there too. It's a proximity sensing key, so you can leave that in your pocket. Then you have this red push button start. I love this. So this has carbon everywhere. So you've got it here around the steering wheel, on these paddle shifters, along this center section, along there as well. God, it is such a good looking interior. So where are we going to start? So it's all highlighted up the top here by the iDrive 7 infotainment system. Then all of these sections here really split the black sections up nicely. It just means that it doesn't look dull and dreary as your eye sort of runs down that center stack there. Then ahead of the drive, you have that big screen as well. But I love these M buttons here, and you saw earlier how those work. It is just such a cool looking design. Now, what about your touch points and just the interior here? So all of this stuff is soft to the touch. That is soft and firmish on the door. How soft are they? Well, we've got our durometer. We've tested the main surfaces in this cabin. If you want to see how this car compares to others that we've tested before, have a look at the link in the description. Build quality. Oh, that is all nice and solid after the caning the car got today. It's all good. Door. Let's have a listen. Yeah, it sounds okay. It's a little bit sort of tinny, but that tends to happen with these frameless windows. Infotainment time. So 10.25 inch display. It's a color touchscreen. You've also got this section down here with your iDrive controller. Look, I've said previously that compared to iDrive 8, iDrive 7 feels like, I don't know, a bit of a misstep in BMW's iDrive history. So fortunately, that's what you lump with here, but you know, it's fine for what it is. You still get all of your M menus. It's nice and quick, easy to use and all that sort of stuff. In terms of your connectivity options and also radio, so AM, FM, DAB, digital radio, then in addition to that, that is plumbed through a 16 speaker Harman Kardon sound system, and that is a good sound system. It sounds fantastic. So if the exhaust is getting a little bit drony, you just crank the sound system and away you go. On the connectivity front, you have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. I'll show you what Apple CarPlay looks like. So there you go, full screen integration. That's nice and snappy as well, and it is wireless. And this is what Android Auto looks like. It is wireless as well. So full screen integration there, works nice and fast too. BMW has a really good infotainment game, I reckon. Now, I didn't really run through this when we were out driving, so I was having a little bit too much fun, but you do have sport displays here, and those sport displays give you just a little bit of information about engine temperatures, boost pressure.
your G bubble, power and torque and all that sort of stuff as well. But given you're going to be concentrating on going sideways, that's probably all somewhat irrelevant. Now, you also have a screen here ahead of the driver. You saw all that while we were driving. You really can do a fair bit of stuff with that, and it gives you all the critical information you need when you are sort of having a little bit of fun. Let's talk safety. So you have autonomous emergency braking. In addition to that, you have radar cruise control, lane keeping assistant. We already tested that stuff out. We saw that it was actually surprisingly good in terms of how it worked. Blind spot monitoring in the wing mirror, and on the parking front, you have both front and rear parking sensors and a 360 camera. I'll show you what that looks like. So quality is okay, it's not too bad. So you can see our suitcase there with a little distance marker. You can then also configure which cameras you want to display. Now, in addition to that stuff as well, you also have a reversing assistant. Now, that is a great feature because if you do get stuck in a street, it is basically going to relay your exact route out of that street. So it means you don't really have to worry about that. It works up to 50 meters. We actually shot a video explaining how that works and demoing it as well. You can watch it by clicking up here. Now, what's your practicality like? And we'll start off with your connectivity. So you've got a USB-A port up the front here. You've got a 12 volt outlet. You've got a wireless phone charger down the front there. In the center console, you have a USB-C port, so it's pretty well featured there. In terms of phone storage, you can whack it down on the wireless phone charger, or you can just kind of put it wherever else you want. There is a cover for that, by the way, so you can just slide that on, and it's very lightweight too, so look how quickly it springs back. Very impressive. Now, what else are you going to store here? So, coffee cup. Fits into there beautifully. It won't get de-lidded as you go to grab it. Bottle, same story, gets in there nicely. You've got some teeth to hold everything in. Bottle fits inside the door. Try our big bottle too. I'm keen to see whether that works inside the door. Yeah, look at that. Bob's your uncle. Very nice. Now, on your other storage, you do have a little slot here just next to the driver's knee. You have this center console, which is pretty small. And then you finally have a glove box down here, which is okay in terms of its size. Oh, I actually forgot to mention something. So, look at this. This car also has the option of connecting what BMW calls a digital key. That means you can use a card or you can use your phone and the native software built into your iPhone as an example to open the car. Now, the cool thing there is what Apple has done with the phone is actually allowed you to have reserve battery life if your phone goes flat, which means you can still access your car. You can share your keys with other people as well. Not that you'd want to if you had an M4 Competition, but you can do all of that sort of stuff. So pretty cool feature, and I like the fact that they are integrating this smart technology within their cars. Now, comfort, you have dual zone automatic climate control. You have electric seat adjustment with memory for the driver. You can go forwards, backwards. Backrest can go forwards, backwards. You can lift the front. You can lift the entire seat up as well. Then you can also adjust your bolsters too. Let's talk about these seats for a second because they are absolutely unreal. So M4 written over here, they have perforations, Alcantara on these side bits, and then the back of them is entirely covered in carbon. They have holy shit handles on the side here as well. It is an insane seat and it absolutely hugs you in when going hard as well. So yeah, really cool setup, and I don't know, I just kind of want to take it out of the car and put it in my office or something. So yeah, awesome looking seat. Now, steering is manually adjustable, offers both tilt and reach adjustment. And then on the reach test, all of this stuff is easy to reach while you're driving. So second row, I'm going to climb in there just to show you how it works. So you pull this little tab, it moves the seat forward, and then it automatically shifts out of the way for you. And then I climb in. Hey, this is kind of roomy. I'll let that come back. Holy crap, this is actually really roomy. I wasn't expecting this. I've got heaps of knee room. Toe room's good. Headroom isn't great, but it's pretty relaxing. I even have 2 USB-C ports and a third zone of climate control here. So it is definitely livable, and I can go into the boot there too. So pretty impressed here with the second row of the M4. Now let's talk cargo. So you've got a powered boot. Crack that open. So you have just under 450 litres worth of cargo space available here. Storage off to the side. You don't really have anything under here outside of a battery. That's where that sits. Inside here you have a tyre repair kit to keep you on the move. First aid kit just there. And then what you can do is drop your bags in. I'll show you what that looks like. There we go. So decent amount of room actually, so that's not too bad at all. Quite impressed with that. And then you can also drop the second row if you want to, using these little levers here.
just got to push them out of the way. And that gives you just a little bit more room if you do need to cram something in there. So the M4 Comp, this thing is absolutely unreal. I was not expecting to have this much fun today. It is just a smile maker. You can just go bananas in it. And then when you switch everything off, it's still actually really manageable and enjoyable to drive. You've got so much configurability too. So if you are a weekend track day warrior, I think this car has got to be up your alley. It's good enough to live with day to day. It is firm, it is noisy and all that sort of stuff, but ultimately it is, you know, the ultimate track machine or whatever they're saying is. It is just sensational. Now, should you spend $15,000 on the exhaust? I actually personally like the sound of it at lower speeds. When speed picks up though, you don't hear as much from the outside. So that's probably where you need to go to like a third-party specialist and say, hey, give me the loud treatment, because I have heard these before with like ridiculous exhausts and they sound incredible. So let me know in the comments section below, what do you think about this? Would you get it with all the carbon stuff that's on it at the moment? I'm keen for your feedback. And do you own an M4 or an M3 Comp? Let me know what it's like to live with as a daily down in the comments section below. Now, if you did enjoy this video, please make sure you like it and you share it with your mates. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon. But until next time, take it easy.